Hit it. Oh, how you feel, brother?
Feeling good.
You feel good?
Feeling good. Improving.
Play so much bone, brother. How you feel, man?
I feel all right.
I call your name. I don't want no people to know you're in here. How you feel, fella? Hey, Jam! Sure getting down. We gotta take you high. Yeah. All right.
Hi, this is Sharita J, and I'm here with you in Drive Time in Los Angeles. That's from 5 to 6 p.m. I know that several of you, you're not in the city, you're either in the Midwest or you're on the East Coast, so it's a little bit later. Some of you that even tune in, you are in another country. But either way, the information will be the same. It's just if you're further away, you just might be a little sleepy. Today is a very, very special show. Today is the 23rd anniversary of one of the most historic times in the history of the United States, and that is the Los Angeles riots. It was triggered by the incident with Rodney King, and so I have some very special guests here today. But we also are going to be talking about where are we now, then and now, and what does it look like? What's really going on? And so I also have a special guest and going to be talking to you about what's been happening in Ferguson, Missouri, and we're going to be touching on what's going on in Maryland and just across the country. So before we go any further, I just want to take you back a day in history. Tune in, don't turn away. I want you to see what has triggered us to be here
Reginald Denny
today.
was the truck driver. We watched him by the millions. Here is the tape of what happened there. Now you're going to see people go up to the cab of this truck, I think, and pull him out. Let's see how the tape goes.
This is where it all started, and you heard Mark Ridley Thomas suggest that if the LAPD had come in and dealt with this in a big hurry, maybe all of this would have been avoided. And of course, the other side to that is that they were there, they knew they were outnumbered, they had to pull back for their own safety and by policy, and that's what happened. So you've got two sides to what we're seeing here. This is the beginning. There's the body.
There is Reginald Denny. He is the man who was pulled out of his truck, kicked and beaten terribly until he was...
We have Bobby Green Jr., who I'm told is one of the men who came to the aid of this truck driver and got him out of there and got him to the hospital. Mr. Green, can you hear us?
Yes.
Were you one of the people that beat him up?
No.
All right, so that theory is out the window. Tell us what happened and how you helped this man.
Well, I was sitting home watching TV, and I seen this guy getting all beat up. So I'm a truck driver from Norman Trucking. So I just got out the car, got in my car and went over there and, helped him.
Did you have help?
Oh, yes, there was a woman right there, was on the door, hanging on the door, and he was driving, so he was driving real slow. So I told him to move to the side, to the other seat, so I could take him to the hospital.
Mm-hmm. But did you pick him up off the street all by yourself and get him in your truck?
No, he was already into the truck. He was already into the truck already, and he was driving it himself, but he was going real slow.
Oh, he did get back into the truck himself?
Yes.
He got back into that big what is it, 14-wheeler we're looking at now?
Yes.
Beat up as he was, he managed to climb up into the truck, huh?
Yes.
Now you're talking about the truck with the red cab and the two trailers?
Yes.
I'll be darned, I hadn't heard that before.
No. So he got back into that cab, and you found him trying to drive away from the scene when you got there, huh?
Right.
What kind of shape was he in, Mr. Green?
Oh, he was really, really, really bad. Bad shape.
Can you describe his injuries to us as best you can?
He had big holes under his eyes. His head was busted, everything. He seemed like he was ready to go unconscious.
So did you pushed him over and you drove him in?
Yes.
Was he conscious when you got to the hospital?
Not really. As soon as we got to the hospital, he went to a seizure.
A seizure?
Yes.
Did he say anything to you on the way to the hospital?
Yes.
What?
He said, "Thank you, sir, for helping me out."
How old a man was he, Mr. Green? Would you guess?
He probably was in his 35s, probably.
Yeah. Did you ever figure out why he got beat up like that?
He was white.
That was all, huh?
Yes.
Just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yes.
Hi, okay, we are back here in the studio. Now, you were just listening to that video. What I want you to understand, and what a lot of people have no idea why someone would be the certain way they are. And I'm not trying to make up an excuse for anyone, but many of you know that I have been working in communities since 1988. And what you have to understand is so often you deal with individuals that never leave. They almost live in a bubble. Even in this day and age, you have individuals, whether it's because of gangs, poverty, or whatever, that never or seldom leave within a 5-mile radius of where they live. And so just like how you have individuals that live in upper class communities that never see what it's like to live in another community, it's the same way on the lower end of the spectrum. So you have individuals that seldom interact with other races except the ones that live in their communities. You have individuals that are from generations of poverty and living in very hard conditions. And so when that happens, it doesn't take much to trigger what we keep seeing and repeating itself in history. But what I want to talk about today is, where is the fairness? What can we do now from this day forward to start bringing about change, to not just talk about something when it happens at the time when it's in the news, but how can we be proactive in not only making sure that everyone is treated fairly across the board, no matter what your race, religion, creed, or whatever, but also how can we start helping more with our young people and providing opportunities for them so that they realize that there's more hope? How can we work with those that are in municipalities to help to create more programs, help to be more fair when it comes to making decisions, even when it's split decisions? That's what we're going to be talking about today. So my guest today, sitting right to my immediate left, is Mr. Bobby Green Jr., who was on the video, the gentleman that did the heroic thing and going and helping that gentleman that he saw laying in the street get to the hospital. And then we also have his sister in the studio today. That's Sheila Ellis. She's here today, and we're going to be talking about what they're doing and how they're going to be moving forward and life after the LA riots. And then we're coming to more current times now. Everyone has seen in the news what's going on in Ferguson, Missouri with the Michael Brown incident. And so we have a family member, Mr. Anthony Ty Pruitt, in the studio. He is his cousin, and we're going to be talking about that. So I want to thank all of you for being here, and I'm going to go first to Mr. Bobby Green Jr. And let's talk about, you were on that video, and they called you, and they're talking to you on the video. Tell us about that day.
That day was like a nightmare. I couldn't believe what was going on. I can't believe that another human being getting beat down like a dog. So I seen it on the news, so I decided to get up and go rescue that guy.
Wow. So you're at home.
Yes.
About how many minutes away?
About 15 minutes away.
And so you drive through what was going on. My first thought was, where'd you park your car? What did you do?
No.
Tell us that moment.
It was my brother, Peter. We decided to go down and save him. So I told my brother, Peter, to pull to the side and let me jump out the car and let me go through the crowd and try to save him. Only thing was on my mind was God was talking to me, and he had told me don't worry about it. He had the angels protecting me.
Wow.
So I didn't know what he understand what he said about the angels protecting me. So I listened to him. So that's why I made him save the man his life.
Wow. Wow. So when you got there, listening to the tape, he was already in the truck.
Yes.
But he just could not drive.
He couldn't drive. He was like unconscious. You know what was going on.
Okay. And then there was already another couple or someone else
lady,
there?
Terry.
And so what was she doing?
Terry didn't believe I was trying to save him. Terry thought I was a hoodlum, another gangbanger. So I was going to convince her to tell her that I'm not a gangbanger, so I'm trying to hear her to save this man's life. So I had to say it like 3 or 4 times, convince her. So she let me pull him over to the side, and I started taking the truck to drive.
So this is someone else that's being really brave at this time,
right, yes.
And a woman.
There's 4 of us.
Wow, wow.
2 was an escort, because the windshield of the truck was all cracked and we couldn't see out.
Wow.
So we had 2 escorts in the front, and she was helping him out and keep him talking.
You know, what's amazing is, who hears that story? who has heard about those individuals that risked their lives because you didn't know what could have happened at that time?
No.
So how long of a drive? Where did you go? What hospital was it?
I went to Damien Freeman.
Okay, okay. Where is Reginald Denny now? Does anyone know?
He in Bullhead City in Arizona.
So he's doing okay?
Yes, he's doing okay.
Okay. And then now, Sheila,
Yes,
you're here. And tell us your family.
Yeah.
And after this whole situation, give us your take on that day and what life has been like.
Actually, when it actually happened, I was actually in Chicago. I came home a couple days later.
Okay.
But the riots were still going on. And, you know, of course, I'm watching him do what he did like everybody else on TV and thinking like, man, he crazy.
Would you say, that's my brother?
What is his problem, you know? But like he said, you know, when we spoke with you during the, I think it was the 20th anniversary, at the Seegu, whatever those Koreans call the
Yes, we were at an event.
Yeah, and you talked about writing the book, and we went and we talked about it, and I was like, wow, he didn't want to relive that story, but we got the dialoguing about it one day, and you know, and reminiscing. It's like, wow, this is a story, like you said, that needs to be told.
It's a story
because just like the kids in Baltimore, like the people in Ferguson, you always hear the negative, but you never hear the positive.
Right.
And here we have somebody who went and risked their life for somebody that they knew nothing about.
Right.
But
right.
Only thing he knew was it was another human being in need of help, and he rushed over there and he did it.
Bobby, is it something that you would do again today?
Yes, I'll do 1,000 times. I think God made us all the same color, our blood running the same thing. We're all human beings.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You got to put yourself in his spot. If somebody beat you up, you don't care what color you are, please come save me.
Yes,
You know what I'm
yes.
saying?
And we all bleed the same color.
Same color.
The same color. Yes. And so, Sheila, through this, and you guys are talking about the book, is the book Life After the Riots, or, and I know that because it's new, you guys, this is exclusive. This is actually
Very much so.
this is your first interview even talking
Very
about the
first.
book.
Right,
And
first
thank
interview.
you for coming on the show and speaking on it, just even giving us whatever you can on it.
We had to give it to you because you inspired
It
it,
was right
basically.
here with the
You
book.
inspired it.
Well,
but
thank you.
what we talked about in the book is we went day by day, actually. It was just like a blow-by-blow, bird's-eye view report of what happened from day one until the end of the riot, till they called off the curfew and everything.
Yes.
But it's just like, it was just him reminiscing about everything that happened, his feelings, towards what happened, why it happened, how it happened. And it was, a lot of people might think that, everybody just got mad because of a verdict and they just blew a fuse, but it wasn't that. It was everything that led up to that.
Right.
It was the
Tasha Hall, the orange juice.
yeah, Latasha Harlins being killed.
Yes.
It was all the driving while black, walking while black,
Yes.
walking, all those unnecessary stops, illegal things that were happening to young black men and
Right.
Hispanics and, just people of color across the board. And it's just a story that needed to be told at some point, particularly in light of what's going on in the country today.
Right, right.
It's, I think the book, personally, is a way for us to dialogue, like we're doing now, about the misconceptions that perpetuate, the violence and the stereotypes that's going on across the country.
Right,
We
right.
need to talk about this. We need to open up this dialogue and figure out not only, who it's happening to, but why it's happening and how we can prevent it from happening in the future.
Right.
Because at some point, this has to stop. It
Well,
has
one
to
of the
end.
things that, and we were talking about it earlier, even myself, when I'm traveling, I stopped at a store because I needed to buy a blouse to go with a suit that I had, and I was speaking, so I'm dressed in my business suit and all of that. And if you are not African American, there's some things that you just cannot know what it feels like. And I'm in the store, and they're following me around, and it happens all the time. And what I want this show to do is for people that even do this, think about how it would feel if it were you.
Right.
Shoe was on the other foot.
So when you're dealing also, I'm going back to those that are on the lower end of the spectrum that continuously deal with that on a daily basis, day in, day out. It doesn't take much to blow a fuse.
At all.
And so we're not, the show is not to give excuses. The show is to,
definitely not.
because the rioting is wrong.
Right.
And we're going to talk a little bit about the mom a little bit later. But what I want to do is I want to bring our other guest in on this conversation, and that's Mr. Anthony Ty Pruitt, and he is the cousin of Michael Brown and has been oftentimes the spokesperson for the family. So, Ty, I want to thank you for being with us today.
No problem.
And first, Ty, you're so young. About how old were you? And I would say, Sharita, you're putting me on this. About how old were you 23 years ago when the LA riots took place?
I couldn't even tell you. I don't want to tell you.
Around how old? About how old were you?
I was young. I was a young teeny bopper. I was what these young cats out in the streets are today.
Yeah.
But I was a young guy in St. Louis, and you know, I looked at it with horror on TV, and it was one of the things that kind of changed me.
Yes.
You know, it's seeing what I was always that guy who, you know, I grew up tough.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always in my head that, you know, when I get mad, react.
Mm-hmm.
Never think, just react.
Yes.
And when I watched the video that you guys are speaking about, when I was watching that on TV as a young man, it kind of changed the way I thought about things. So, you know, it made me I think it put me on the path to where I am now as far as speaking out against what they're doing as far as the rioting. So when I come to you and I talk to you about the rioters and what they're doing, I say, yes, the rioting is wrong, but on the flip side of that, I understand where it comes from.
Yes, yes.
And I could, you know, that's why I'm able to talk to these young guys and, you know, get their perspective, but I could talk to them hard.
Yes.
You know, because I came from where they are.
Uh-huh.
I had those feelings. I had those emotions. And in a lot of ways, I still have those emotions and those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I just learned how to suppress them.
Yes.
And go about it the right way. Yeah.
Well, you know, the thing is, let's talk a little bit about your cousin.
Okay.
Because, do we have a caller? Okay, I can have. You know, when you were speaking, you talked about dehumanizing him. Before we do that, I don't know if my engineer is ready. Let me have that one. Or do you have a different pair for me? Yes. While we're getting ready, I'd like to take you to the video of Ty speaking following the death of his cousin, Michael Brown.
How are you doing? How's the family doing now?
That's a question I keep getting asked. And family is doing, I mean, much like any other family would be doing if a murderer went free.
Do you think it's fair to call him a murderer after a grand jury found him there was not enough evidence or cause to indict?
Absolutely. When you look at the grand jury, and you got to break down exactly what he said in his testimony. And see, that's what I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to.
So many would deem that as an inflammatory statement, right? Much as the husband of Michael Brown's mother. And so you're saying he's a murderer. And then on the night that the announcement was made, there's a video of him standing on top of a car, I believe, or something, screaming, "We're going to burn this bitch down." Let's take a look at it and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
He just spoke out of anger. Thing to speak, and it's a different thing to act. He did not act. He just spoke out of anger.
So you said murderer, and again, many people would say that's inflammatory. So, the police are now looking into whether Louis Head may have incited rioting there in a crowd. What do you think of that?
I feel that what Louis did was pure emotion. Pure emotion. But here's what I will say. That if you're going to bring Louis in for the act that he just committed, then I think you need to bring in his co-conspirators also. And that would be Bob McCullin and Governor Nixon.
How would they be his co-conspirators? Are they the cause for the looting and the rioting?
Let me break that down to you. Why? Let's say you had a pit bull, Don, and you let him out once and he bit a dog. He tore a chihuahua apart. So you bring him back in, you lock him up. Then the very next day you let him out again, and you already know what he's going to do, right? You already know, because you didn't take the time out to correct the problem that you had. So let's think about it like this. Let's think about Bob McCullough. Look at the time he decided to release that decision. He waited until 9 o'clock at night in the dark. All the schools are out. All the teenagers and all the young cats who looted the first time are right there waiting in the middle of the street. And he even pushed it back an hour to incite it a little bit more. So then we go to Governor Nixon, who brought in what was some ungodly amount of about 200 National Guardsmen. But where were they when things were burning? He held them back.
It may sound to people that you're deflecting from what Louis Head did and that you're condoning and blaming it on the governor and the prosecutor.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. See, there's a wrong, but then you got to know why that wrong was committed. You understand what I'm saying, Don? What you saw out of Louis was pure, raw emotion. And if I were to take it to court, if I was his lawyer, I would call it temporary insanity. And I would have a great case for it. Because he just witnessed the man who murdered his son, his stepson, go free.
So what do you think of the looting and the rioting?
Case. The looting and the rioting is absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. There's no reason why you should ever burn a police car or burn a building down. But there's also no reason why you should ever burn a city down after a soccer game. But we don't give that much attention.
Let's take the caller before we go any further. Caller, you there?
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm calling about the 23-year anniversary of the Los Angeles riot.
Yes. And what city are you in?
I'm in Los Angeles.
All right. And do you have a question or comment?
Well, I have a question I wanted to ask Mr. Green. I want to know if he was injured during his rescue. Did he pick up the victim and put him in the truck?
Okay.
Just when did his involvement start?
Ma'am, he and I were trying to use this one plug. The very last part of your question, what was it?
I just wanted to know when his involvement started, because from what I remember, he left home, which he lived nearby, and came down. Was Reginald Denny on the ground? Did he pick him up and put him in, or did he, or was Reginald Denny already in the truck? I just wanted to know when did his involvement begin with the rescue of Reginald Denny.
Okay. Can you answer that for her? And you can just use your mic there, Bobby. Yeah, you can just talk.
Okay.
Pick you up.
I was at home watching the news like everybody else. And when I seen the last thing, I seen the guy with the brick hit him across the head. So it made me decide to go down and rescue him. Me and my brother Peter.
Okay. Ma'am, did you have
another question? Was he on the ground? Did you have to pick him up and put him in there?
No, ma'am. He was already inside the truck already.
Oh, so he had pulled himself up in the truck.
Yes, I don't know how he did it, but the guy was on his side, so he put him up in the truck.
Oh, okay. And all these 23 years, do you think about it frequently?
Yes. I still have nightmares sometimes.
Yeah. Ma'am, if you don't mind me asking, where were you at that time? You know, normally when something tragic happens, we can remember exactly where we were. Where were you at the time, or were you living in Los Angeles at the time?
I lived in Los Angeles. and I live in South Central LA. Which fortunately, we had no involvement. None of our businesses were burned down. I live right off of Central Avenue, between Avalon and between King and Florence. We didn't, fortunately, we didn't have any of the burning and the looting in our little area.
Wow.
But it was very disgusting for me to watch on television what was going on. I did not agree with the rioting and the looting, especially the looting and burning of buildings. I understand we were all upset, we were all angry, but not to that extent. And so I was just happy to hear about Mr. Green and the other people involved in saving Reginald Denny, because it was terrible to watch him hit in the head.
Right.
So I was just wondering if they attacked Mr. Green or any of the other people who was trying to save Reginald Denny.
You know what? From the way it sounds, it looks like the only attack he almost suffered was from the woman that was trying to protect him herself. But thank you so much for calling in, and thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Now, you know, in talking about that incident, when it happened, I was working at the YMCA right there at Century in Vermont.
Okay.
And I mean, and you know, Vermont was one of the worst burned streets.
Right.
And so ashes were covering our cars. And I was the director on duty that night. And we could not get those people out of the gym. They weren't worried about their homes. They said, look, we're safer here, Miss Herring, than we would be at home. And I even had to go in the men's locker room. We're trying to clear the building. You know, I'm telling them, put your towels on, you know, come on in, it's all right, you know. And the thing is that I ended up taking some of the YMCA kids home with me. And at that time, I was living off of 81st in Normandy. And even the next morning, ashes were just all over our cars. But the thing is that what people also have to understand is that so often when something like this happens, it's not the residents and the people that live around there that are in danger.
That's right.
And so we didn't feel any danger at the time. And the matter of fact, the church's chicken that was on the same lot as our YMCA was burning. And we had to go and grab some of our kids over there. They're in there trying to steal boxes of chicken. And we're telling them, you know, go put it back, you know. And but nobody touched that YMCA. So what I'm saying, the reason why I brought that up is, even no matter what people think about what's going on with those individuals, they value things that make a difference in their lives.
Right.
And if we can start bringing more things to individuals, more positive things, then we wouldn't see a lot of what is happening.
Exactly.
Ty, I know that when even in Ferguson, a lot of what led up to that day, I was asking about, first of all, tell us about Michael Brown. What was he like as your cousin and as a young man? Because no one hears that side.
Yeah, and the answer I always give to that is Michael was a normal teenager. You know, I would never get on the radio or TV or any show, and I would never talk face to face to you and tell you that Michael was a perfect kid. Because no kid out there is a perfect kid.
Right.
There's no kid out there that's perfect.
Right.
Michael had his, you know, he had his flaws, but he was a good kid for all intents and purposes. He had just graduated high school, and the Monday after the Saturday that he was killed, he was starting college. So he was your normal, typical teenager, you know. And I know they talked about him having weed in his system, and you know, he smoked a little weed. I mean,
next door to here is a weed store.
Listen. I work in show business.
Yes.
And most of the people I work with, you're lucky if you see them not high. So, you know, I mean, most of our presidents, how many of our presidents didn't smoke weed? You know, so that's one of my biggest issues with everything that's happening. You know, these kids, and I want to make a statement, but I'll finish what I'm saying first. These kids, the moment they get shot down in the street, they're automatically vilified.
Right. Yes.
And that's a huge problem with me, because for some reason, you know, and first of all, let's establish the fact that the word thug is the new N-word. Let's make sure we establish that fact, because everybody's throwing that word around nowadays, and that's so, you know, that the word thug is the new N-word of today. You know, that's their way of being able to call us, you know, without saying it. So let's be clear on that. So, and all of these kids, you got to talk about Trayvon Martin. You know, he had on a hoodie, he had a iced tea and a bag of Skittles.
Oscar Grant.
And, you know, Oscar Grant. You know, my cousin. You got to look at all these young men. And the statement that I wanted to make is, you know, a lot of people talk about this conversation that black men have to have with their sons, but it's two conversations that you have to have with your son, because right now, and I don't have a son, but I could just imagine black men. I am a son. Yes. I am a son. But black men in America today, they're at a crossroads now to where, if I give you this book and teach you knowledge and teach you how to stand up for yourself and send you out in the world, some cop is going to kill you. Right. But if I bring you up the hard way and give you this pistol and show you how to shoot it, some young cat in the street is going to kill you. So I need to figure out how to keep my son alive.
Yes.
And keep him away from both of these entities.
Find that middle ground.
I need to find some kind of way, you know, and that's the conversation that we're not having today.
Right. And that's the conversation that a lot of others don't even understand. Why do you even have to have that conversation with your son? You know, we the way that we all can start working collectively to solve the problems is to first everyone understand the issue that's behind the problem. You know, that the conversations that have to be had in the African Americans and the black families' homes, that is not a reality in other people's homes.
Exactly, because we don't have that privilege not to have that conversation.
Yes. And
we
so
don't have that.
Yesterday, even when I posted on Facebook, someone talked about that, you know, we're using this for commercialism and all that. And I said, these are conversations that must be had.
Right.
I don't know where that came from, but until you can't even do anything about something until you start addressing it and talking about it.
Listen, here's the thing, and you know, I hear everybody talking about these young cats are opportunists and all this, but let's just be clear. When Officer Darren Wilson, the man who killed my cousin, when they released him without a trial, without even he wasn't guilty or innocent, because he never had that day in court to even find out. But rather, they said that you did absolutely nothing wrong. You emptied your clip. You emptied an entire clip in a residential neighborhood at one boy. You put 8 into him. Where did the other 4 bullets go?
They didn't care.
But when they did that, when they released him and said, you're a free man, you're innocent, every policeman after that became an opportunist. Because now you know that if I see this young cat out here, doesn't matter what he's doing, but if I kill him, I could get away with it.
Yes. And one of the things that I want to point out that a lot of people just do not think about is that when you are reared in communities that are brought up where this is what to expect by African Americans and African American men, then you automatically, once it seems that when you are in position that if something comes up against you, you don't let it slide, you go for the kill shot. Right. Now, I don't know if that's correct or not, but just the way history is playing out, because I don't know if my engineer has it available, but there was a young man that was in a restaurant, and he was fighting with the police. And instead of the police pulling their gun and shooting, they were tasing him. Now, I just found out today that young man later died in the hospital. I don't know if it was from all of the tasing or whatever, but they didn't pull their guns to shoot. And what I'm saying is that there is to our law enforcement, there needs to be some additional training. There needs to be a different way.
Refresh again.
But yes, to handle when you are dealing with everyone, and to stop just thinking that initially that this is to just instantly shoot when it comes to the African American men? Was it, I mean, the 12-year-old that was shot in the park?
Tamir, the little in Cleveland.
Yes, yes.
Because he was holding a toy gun.
He was holding a toy gun.
No questions asked.
Yes.
They walked up on him. A couple seconds later, this kid is dead.
And so what I am asking for individuals
child,
to do,
as opposed to a grown man,
yes,
fighting with police.
Yes. So what I'm asking for individuals to do when you're watching all of this on the news, because one of the things that I started doing after I kept being told by a friend of mine that's in the media, he said, if you notice, when something happens on the news, if it is an African American, they show the face, they show them being put in the police car with handcuffs and all of that.
And that's historically.
Yes.
I mean, that's been since the beginning.
Yes. But when it is not African American, then they just talk about the crime and they don't tend to show the individual, show them putting in the car, so that when that is constantly shown in the media, anyone that hears about a crime, they instantly think that it's African American.
That's the stereotype that's being
the way it is perpetuated. Yes. So what I'm asking for anyone listening, it doesn't matter your race, your color, any of that. Watch how things are being reported. The only way we can do something different is for everyone to see the unfairness, and then we can start to do something about it. Exactly. So for anyone that says they're just automatically going to do something, it's almost like with anything, you don't know which way to go if you don't know where you're starting.
Exactly, you gotta have a starting point.
So if you're not able to walk in the shoes of a black woman or a black man, just watch and see what is happening to those individuals so that you too can see what is going on and how do we now start creating change. Ty, we were talking about your cousin, and like you said, you're not trying to claim that he was an angel.
No.
Since this has happened, how is your family dealing with it? And in the video also, a lot of people were saying because his stepfather said burn this down and all of that, and they're saying that he incited the riots. What is your comment on that?
As I told Don Lemon, what you got out of Lewis was pure emotion, absolute pure emotion. I would challenge anybody to see their son gunned down in the middle of the street and then have that man go free and see how you feel. Let's see what conversation you have. Let's hear what comes out of your mouth after that.
Yes.
Now, I mean, my cousin was, like I said, he wasn't an innocent guy. He wasn't an innocent. He was any other normal teenager. Mm-hmm. But when you talk about, I look at my cousin's case, and this is going to sound a little weird, but I look at my cousin's case like the Bush administration.
Wow.
See, when Bush was in office, you know, when Bush told us, well, after 9/11, Bush told us, well, we have to go get Osama, we have to go get Saddam Hussein because he's got WMDs, right? WMDs are over there. To this day, we have not seen a WMD come out of that war. So when I look at my cousin's case, from the beginning, they told us that my cousin robbed this store. When this cop pulled up on him, he said, well, I saw some cigarillos in his hand. To this day, they have not produced those cigarillos that he supposedly stole. But he's dead.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? It's just so, I'm tired of America lying to us about these cases.
Okay.
If you gave it a fair trial and Darren Wilson was found innocent, then I could let it go. I could honestly let it go. I could walk away from it. If he was found innocent, if they brought all the evidence up and he was found innocent, I could let it go. But this grand jury proceeding that they did, I mean, what they ceased to tell us is this juror number 50, I guess it was, juror number 50, this woman who supposedly broke the case open, she told the FBI, and this is in the transcripts, this is in the transcript, she told the FBI that day she woke up and decided to drive to a random black neighborhood to stop calling black people the N-word.
What?
She said that.
Let's stop for a moment. We've got a caller on. We're going to come back to that one.
Okay.
Caller, are you there?
Hello?
Hi. Sorry to keep you on hold. How are you?
Oh, no problem. I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing good. Are you calling from the LA area?
Actually, San Bernardino.
San Bernardino. And do you have a
Yes,
question
ma'am.
or comment?
Yes, I actually kind of have, I'm not sure if this would be a question for the entire panel or, more or less for Mr. Green and Miss Ellis. Well, yeah, I guess towards the entire panel. As a young black man, because I am only 25 years old, and I am sometimes concerned for my life when I'm going out into the streets just because of all of the things that, obviously, like you guys have been talking about and everything that's been going on in the media. It does scare me a lot because I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it home that night. Sometimes I feel very scared for my life.
Right.
I guess my question would be to the entire panel would be just what kind of advice or what words do you guys have for people my age who are going out and, just don't feel comfortable right now being a black man in America? Like, what kind of words or what advice do you have for us so that we can get it together so that, I don't know if this, so that we can do something to make our lives a little bit easier and make our lives better, or is there anything that you can let us know so that we can, work with somebody or do something in order to make everything, just a little bit better for us,
Okay. Anyone want to take?
Can I take this question? Because I think this is my son. I think the one thing that you could do is properly prepare yourself when you leave and moving about, in your community. I had a professor used to always say the 7 P's, which was proper preparation prevents piss poor performances. And I think at this point in our lives, the police are basically the ones with the piss poor performances on their side. And what you can do is something I tell my 25-year-old son, who I think I'm speaking with right now, to go out there and be the best you that you can be. Be the upstanding citizen that I raised him to be. To be the cooperative individual. If you're stopped, cooperate. And although I'm not saying that every time you go out and you cooperate, it's not saying that you're not going to be harassed by police, because 9 times out of 10 you don't have to do anything to for this to happen. But to just maintain yourself in a fashion that's befitting an upstanding citizen who is worthy of the respect and is given respect. Because it's a two-way street. You have to give it in order to get it. And sometimes there's a lot of hotheads, and because I'm one of them. But when it comes to our black men, we have to be extra careful.
Yes.
And just like Sarita was saying, this is not a conversation that a white mother has to have with her son, but black mothers have to have it. You have to be out there, you have to be aware, you have to be totally aware at all times, and to conduct yourself in a manner befitting the respect that you would want coming your way and the respect that that you're given.
That one of the things that I even remember when my brothers were young, and I don't know if this happens in any other households except African Americans, but when my brothers first started driving, my father told them, don't only have one more of your friends in the car. Do not have any other buddies in the car, because that's one of the things that triggers people pulling you over.
Exactly.
There's conversations that we must have in our households that I don't know. I do see others that are not black, and they might have 6 in the car. That is almost begging for the police to pull you over when
and
you're
dressed.
African American.
We have to, your attire, everything. We have to be aware of everything.
Right.
Our sons, and it's ridiculous, and it should be across the board, but it's not.
Yes.
And everybody has something to say about what we're saying and what we should or should not do when it comes to our sons. But we're the only ones who are going to bury these kids. We're the only ones who are going to mourn for these kids. We're the only ones who have to go and identify these kids, our kids. And it's just not fair.
Mr. Green or Mr. Pruitt, any comment?
Absolutely. Young guy, I'm going to talk to you, straight, because I'm a little bit closer to your age.
Yes,
get into your books. Know your laws. I would never tell you to go out there and I think that I listen to a lot of the older people, and I respect that and I understand that, but the thing that I try and tell you young cats, because I'm probably a generation above you, I want you to be careful, but don't bow down.
Yes.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
You need to go out there and you need to be careful. You need to be aware. You need to be doing the right thing, but you need to know that you're doing the right thing when they approach you, so you can tell them how to do the right thing.
Yes, yes.
You feel what I'm saying?
No, you're right.
You gotta know your laws. You gotta know how they can approach you, what they can ask you for. You gotta know all that, and you gotta be able to spit that right back at them when they come at you.
Thank you so
Yes,
much
sir.
for that, Ty. Bobby? And then we have another caller on. Bobby, you have anything to say on that one?
Just keep your heads up and be straight and say yes or no, sir, to the officer. That's all. You'll be all right.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Thank you for your call.
Thank you.
We're going to take the next caller. Caller, hi. Are you there?
Hello, how are you?
Just fine. What city are you in?
Riverside.
Riverside. And do you have a comment or a question?
I have a question for Bobby.
Uh-huh.
And I'm wondering, was it known publicly that he helped Mr. Denny?
Yeah. Was it known?
Yes.
It just wasn't talked about
It
that
wasn't-
much.
It was kept on. It was quiet. You know what I'm saying? That this ran and said I was the hero, and after that, no flashback and nothing like that. It just died out.
Okay. Any other question?
Yes, and are you still in contact with him today?
No, I got him on Facebook, but we barely communicate on Facebook.
Oh, I see.
He's like out of sight, out of mind. He won't be all in people's face no more. He just want to die out.
Right.
Now, I'm going to ask...
One more question. Was he nearly on his deathbed when you went to
Yes.
rescue him?
Yes. He's completely. If I didn't make him back to the hospital in 2 minutes, he'd been dead.
He would not have made
He
it.
never made it.
Wow.
And I heard you say earlier that you were watching TV and you decided to go and help him.
Yes.
What neighborhood were you living in at the time?
I was in L.A. between Avalon and San Pedro on 62nd.
And you were kind of far away from. Okay.
Yeah.
About like 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
10, 15 minutes.
Probably seemed
That
like
was-
one of the
that
longest
was really
drives. Say that again. I'm sorry.
I'm glad to hear that there's people out there who care about other people like you, Bobby.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you.
Hey, watch out for my book coming out pretty soon. So it'll be coming out real soon.
Yeah. And you know what? Speaking of the book, and you know, caller, with you asking about Mr. Denny, are you thinking about having him do the foreword on the book?
Are we thinking about Denny?
Uh-huh.
No.
No?
No.
Nothing now? Okay. Anything else, caller, before we let you go? Oh, I think she's gone. Okay. Now, I was wondering, you know, you guys, statistics say that whoever we are, whatever we would have the courage to do or whatever, we are who we are by the time we're 5 years old.
Right.
Would you say that you've always been the one that has stepped up with your friends, or if somebody's bullying someone at school or whatever, that you were that one to...
Always, on me, I was
be
like, when I was growing up, I was like a leadership. Everybody look up to me. And I showed them what's right, what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And most of all my friends, they're still living, and not in jail and nothing like that. So I did a good thing for them.
So that day was not unusual
No.
for you.
No.
Yeah. Ty, I want to go back over to you and come back to current times.
Okay.
When you look at what happened in Ferguson, and then you look back at what happened in Los Angeles in '92, and then I'm going even further back because we have a video on it. I don't know if we'll have time, but in 1965, the Watts riots.
Right.
And it just seems like things keep repeating itself.
Right.
And looking at in Ferguson and your family being there really close to what was going on, do you think that there's anything that probably triggered what led to that? You know, I know that, like, for instance, the time that they announced. What do you think about that?
You're talking about the riots in general?
The riots in general.
I think that history is just keeps repeating itself, and until somebody steps up to the plate and fixes what's broken, it'll continue to repeat itself. If you think about back in let's talk about Charles Manson. Helter Skelter.
Yes.
Charles Manson's biggest plan was the biggest race riot the world has ever seen. And whoever loses, he would team up with them and be on top. And I think that that's what's happening today. Because there's so much racial tension right now in America, you get cut it with a knife.
Wow.
It's so thick in America right now. I even had one of my closest friends call me from St. Louis, and she's a white woman, and she asked me would our friendship survive a race war.
Wow.
When people start thinking like that, it's bad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I had to explain to her is I don't look at you as a color.
Exactly.
If you're a friend, you're a friend. I don't look at you as my white friend or my black friend or, you know, my Asian friend. You're just my friend. You know, so, and I think that, but that's the way a lot of people are looking at things nowadays. And a lot of that is lack of education because the younger generations don't know where they come from. They have no clue of where they come from. They have no clue of the leaders that we used to have. The only thing they know is, you know, when they talk about slavery, the only thing they know is white people had us in slavery.
Wow.
That's the only thing they know. But nobody's taking the time to take that Americanized history book out of their hands, put it down and teach them the real knowledge, teach them what really happened, teach them who we really were, teach them that we came from kings and queens. And we weren't those little, you know, jigs running around in the Tarzan movies. That's not where we came from.
Waiting to be rescued.
You know what I'm saying? That's not where we came from.
Wow. You know, I want to read something because, again, there's underlying issues that exist. And so there's some information here, and it says St. Louis County contains 90 municipalities, most with their own city hall and police force. Many rely on revenue generated from traffic tickets and related fines. Now, according to a study by there's a St. Louis nonprofit called Better Together, Ferguson receives nearly 1/4 of its revenue from court fees. For some surrounding towns, it approaches 50%. Municipal reliance on revenue generated from the traffic stops adds pressure to make more of them, okay, to get more tickets. Now, look at this. With primarily white police forces that rely disproportionately on traffic citations revenue, blacks are pulled over, cited, and arrested in numbers far exceeding their population share. According to a recent report, now this is by Missouri's Attorney General, in Ferguson, last year, 80% of stops, 92% of searches, and 93% of arrests were black people. Despite the fact that police officers were far less likely to find contraband on black drivers, 22% versus 34% of whites. Okay? So this worsens inequality as struggling blacks do more to fund local government than relatively affluent whites. Now, this wasn't a report this was written by the Attorney General. So what I'm saying, and what I need our listeners to hear, those that do not live in black communities, those that have not walked in the shoes, is that when something is designed in this fashion, if it were reversed in any other race, if it were anyone else, and this happens continuously, how would they react when something happens?
The same manner that they're doing in Baltimore, that they did in Los Angeles, like they did in Ferguson. Because when you got numbers that disproportionate, come on now, something's got to give.
Yes.
Across the board, something's got to give. And it's not, you know, people being overly sensitive, or, you know, people using an excuse for, you know, being arrested or being stopped or whatever, using color as an excuse. It's just, it is what it is.
Yes.
It's happening.
And see,
something has to be done. And until we reform it, until, you know, we take this system and just toss this old system and develop something that's righteous across the board, it's going to continue.
And so, again,
we've been having the same conversation since Dr. King left here.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
And 50 years later, we still having the same conversation?
Yes.
Come on now.
As a matter of
Something's
fact,
gotta give.
Just over the weekend, I spoke at a conference with Dick Gregory. And when I was sitting and listening to him, the same thing that he was saying on Saturday and about the situations that are happening is the same thing that he spoke on right after the Watts riots in 1965, sitting on the couch at talking with on the Dick Cavett show.
And that's 50 years.
Yeah,
That's 50 years.
I think it was right at 47, 48 years. And so I thought it was Dick Cavett on that show.
Whoever it was, he was
whoever
talking
it
about
was. And so the thing is that how we've got to start the dialogue not just with us, but with those that are, again, in the municipalities, those individuals that are making the laws.
Those with the power to make a difference.
We all have to do something in order to make a difference. Anything else? We're getting close to the closing hour. Bobby, is there anything else that you would like to know? Now, your book is coming out. We want to make your book available to everyone that would like to read it, which everyone should.
Oh, they're going to read it.
Where can they get in touch with you?
You can find me on Facebook, Bobby Green on Facebook.
Okay. And just your name, Bobby Green,
Yes,
not Bobby Green Jr.?
No, it's Bobby Green.
Bobby Green. And Sheila, your Facebook?
Sheila Ellis.
Sheila Ellis.
All over
E-L-L-I-S.
E-L-L-I-S.
And then Ty. I know that there's a book in you, man. And we're working with Ty. Ty is developing his nonprofit. It's focused on empowering young men and just making a difference with young people across the board.
Absolutely.
The name of the foundation?
Is A Chance for Life Foundation.
A Chance for Life Foundation. How can they reach you?
Just Ty Pruitt. You can hit me on Twitter. You can hit me on Facebook, Instagram, whichever way you want to come at me.
Is it Anthony Pruitt or Ty Pruitt?
No, it's Ty.
T-Y.
Ty Pruitt.
Okay.
Can I just say something?
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to, the young brother who called in today, I also want to touch back on a little something because I feel like a lot of these young guys are lost, and I feel like a lot of that comes from no guidance and no celebrity role models.
We don't have none.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And because when I was growing up, I had those people to look up to. I'm pretty sure you guys grew up having those people to look up to. And, and this was before my time, but to me, there's no greater role model than Muhammad Ali. There's no greater role model than Muhammad Ali, but we don't have that today. And I hear these guys like the Charles Barkleys, just calling these guys scumbags that who are out doing their things, and and the Don Lemons of the world and the Pharrells of the world, and then they turn around and they say, well, everybody calls us house niggas, and can I say that word?
Yes. No, you're good.
Let me go. You got let me know if I'm going too deep. But they call they wonder why people call them, and I want to explain to y'all what a house nigga is, because I don't think y'all know exactly what it is. A black man in a nice suit does not make you a sellout or a house nigga. What makes you a sellout or a house nigga is when you grow up in the same type of situation that these young guys came up in, but when you make it, you detach yourself so far from your background that you don't even understand how these young guys feel when the world tells them that they don't matter. And then you turn around and you join in on that bandwagon and tell them that they trash.
Yes.
That's what makes you a sellout or a house nigga.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I'm going to flip it on you. The worst type of sellout house nigga is you young cats bringing drugs to our neighborhoods.
Okay.
That's a house nigga, because you are doing what the slave master, you are actually doing what the slave master taught you to do. You are killing our people.
Yes. Well, that being said, we're going to make this a part 2 and part 3. I have other shows lined up, so I'm sad to say that it cannot be in our next couple of shows. But what I would like to do is have you guys back for our Father's Day show, and we're going, because it's important to start showing out. You guys are the next role models. And by working with more of our men in our communities, because so often we have those individuals, but because they're not, haven't been the long-term Martin Luther King or the Muhammad Ali, people don't know them. And I want to show them the everyday men that are heroes in their communities. So I invite you guys to come back. Thank you so much also for Sheila being on the air with me.
Thank you for
I want
having
to talk
me.
more about the book, and we're going to do that because there's some other questions. But we are out of time. So I want to thank also my audience. Thank you, callers. We will be having them back. This is Sharita J on Drive Time with Sharita. Tune in again next Wednesday, and we're going to have a another wonderful show. Have a good evening.
All right. You want to do it again? You want to do it again, huh? Yeah, let's do it one more time. Gotta take you high.
Power Lunch with Sharita J. If we could get more people to collect.